Today in our 2006 Beaver Monterey, we're going to be installing Roadmaster's battery charge line kit, part number RM-156-75. This charge line kit is going to allow you to charge whatever you're hauling behind your RV, whether it be your vehicle that you're flat towing, a trailer, or any other components. It comes with a circuit breaker to keep your vehicle safe and protected, and all the wires and connections you need to get it installed. This charge line kit can be especially useful if you are flat towing your vehicle, as some vehicles when in tow mode do still drain part of the battery. This way when you get to the location you're trying to get to, you can hop right in your car and start having fun. It's easy to install. Let's show you how to do that now. We're here at the front of the vehicle. We've opened up the compartment and we're going to install our circuit breaker. We're going to put it right here on this beam. So we're going to go ahead and line it up, and we're going to use our drill bit just to make a couple of pilot holes. We're going to start by just marking them. Now that we've marked both holes, we're going to use a 1/8 inch drill bit to make pilot holes. This is pretty thick steel. It does have self-tapping screws, but due to its thickness, the pilot holes will help preventing those bolts from breaking. We'll now take one of the self-tapping screws provided in the kit, put it through the hole. We are going to be installing this with the copper one towards the passenger side of the vehicle and the silver towards the right, as the copper is going to be hooked into our battery and the silver is going to be going back to our 7-pole connector. We'll run this self-tapping screw in using an 8mm socket. We'll now take some of the red wire included in the kit and measure out a length to go from our circuit breaker down to our battery. Kind of route it how we would. Looks like we're going to go about here to here. It's not a bad idea to give yourself a little extra slack for future repairs if needed. And we'll make a small cut. We'll then set aside the rest of our red wire, as that's going to be running from the circuit breaker to our 7-pole. We can now strip back some of the red wire and crimp on one of these small ring terminals. We'll connect this end to the copper post labeled BAT, B-A-T for battery. And we'll put the nut back on and then tighten it down with a 3/8 inch socket. We can just leave this wire aside, as we won't be hooking it up to our battery until the very last step. We're now at the rear of the vehicle at our 7-pole connector. We are going to need to disassemble it so we can hook up our wire. So we'll use our Phillips screwdriver here. Yours may vary slightly, to remove our screws, and repeat that for all remaining screws. We can now pull down our 7-pole connector. We'll need to remove the Phillips screws on each side of the connector. And we'll also need to loosen the Phillips screws located at the rearmost section to allow the wire to move inside the connector. We can now open up our end and push our wiring out. So now we can access the terminal that we need to hook up our charge line to. We'll be hooking up the charge line to the one labeled black. We'll now take the remaining red wire we have. We're going to poke it back through the back side of our 7-way connector. We'll strip off a little bit of the end, and we'll be connecting that to the black terminal. You just need to loosen it, slide the small clamp away, poke the wire in, and tighten it back down. We can now reassemble our 7-pole connector. It is a good idea to use some electrical tape to tape up the back end of your wires where they meet your 7-pole to help keep out any moisture, corrosion, dirt, debris, or anything else. We'll now take the remainder of our red wire and route it to the front of the vehicle so we can connect to our circuit breaker. I'm going to run that wire now, and I'll show you how I've routed it. We routed our wire from our 7-pole over to the frame on the driver's side, and then we just followed that frame rail all the way forward. We snuck it near this compartment here, and we just ran it up, continuing that frame rail. We went over top our axle, and again continued down that frame rail, staying away from any moving objects and excessively hot objects such as our exhaust. If we were near our exhaust at any point, we zip tied the wires as far away as possible. We continued running it down the frame rail, running it through any passageways as possible to help keep the wire in place. And now if you've run out of wire on your path running it up from the rear to the front, you may need to get some additional wire, which you can pick up here at eTrailer.com, so you can extend it all the way. This is going to vary depending on the length of your RV. We then ran it up alongside the radiator, up into that compartment so we can get to our circuit breaker. We can now take our excess wire. We're going to cut off just a little bit of it, strip back some of the end, crimp on one of the small ring terminals, and we're going to connect this end to the silver post of our circuit breaker. And we'll tighten it down with a 3/8 socket. We're now back at the red wire connected to the gold post. We'll strip back some of the wiring and crimp on the large ring terminal provided in our kit. We'll then hook this end to our battery positive post. We undid the screw using a 13mm socket. We used a 16mm to hold the post just to make sure we didn't cause any damage to the battery. We'll slide our charge wire on and reinstall the nut. We're now ready to hook up our vehicle, start our flat tow, and hit the road. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's battery charge line kit on our 2006 Beaver Monterey.